Welcome to Forensic Friday.
Where we examine the intersection of true crime, psychology, and the heart of being human in the middle of it all. So, remember at the end of our last episode, we
Yes.
were talking about how we were going to cover gaslighting.
Yes.
And I was trying to remember what we said we wanted to start with in terms of gaslighting. Like, how did we want to bring it up?
Oh, I don't remember.
How can you not remember? It was just like Friday.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
Okay. I feel like it was your idea. So it's pretty bizarre that you don't remember.
I don't remember, Janine.
Okay. So that's how you gaslight somebody.
Yeah.
And it's real shitty.
I was getting a little mad.
No, I know. I'm watching her face. Again, Natalie is a literal thermometer. She will turn beet red in 5 seconds. And I'm watching you, and then you got it. You got it fast because I don't talk to you like that.
No, never.
I never talk to you like that. And I would never, by the way. It was actually painful to do it to you, but
Same. You didn't keep it going long enough.
I can't because I love your face. If you were somebody I didn't
Aw.
like, I could have some serious fun. But gaslighting is just the most annoying and, in my opinion, one of the most damaging communication issues that can happen in a relationship. So that is what our first mini episode,
When
Minisode.
um
Maybe you guys can give us a name for it.
Forensic Wednesday? Wacky Wednesday. Oh, I don't know.
Wacky Wednesday. Woozy Wednesday. It's no longer Wheezy Wednesday now that I have an airway. Woo! Yay me. We'll come up with something.
Yeah. I feel like an example of gaslighting that I just thought of is
Mhm.
when you have a conversation with someone and you're like, okay, this conversation happened. And then you return to the conversation later and
Yes.
you're like, hey, remember we talked about this? And they're like, we never talked about that.
Oh, 100%, which is what I thought you were going to say. And you're like, yeah. I
Why could we have talked about gaslighting?
did not talk about that. And
I
I'd be
know.
like, yes, we did, Natalie.
Well, and probably because we talk about gaslighting so much in context of maybe work, but also this.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, sure, we talked about it. I'm sure we did.
I'm sure it came up.
Benefit of the
Also,
doubt.
OJ is a gaslighter. So, I mean, it wouldn't have been off base for us to have talked about that.
No, that's so
But
funny. So I even like tripped you up in that.
a little bit, I can hang in there because this is something that we are very, very familiar with on so many levels, including how we are sometimes treated in
Yes.
the treatment process. So this is something
Yes.
that we have run into. Also, therapists are sometimes the best gaslighters of all time.
Yes.
So even occasionally I've run into this with colleagues or people that I've worked with and for. Like this is something that we do to each other sometimes without even realizing it. But what it's not is anytime we disagree with each other, anytime we're not kind to each other, I feel like our society has kind of run with it a little bit and everything's gaslighting now.
Oh, yeah. Our society, it's funny. I'll bring it up in sessions, in conversations with friends. Anytime I bring it up, it's like a buzzword. It's almost like the word trigger when people got super frustrated.
Yes.
Trigger. I bring up gaslighting and they're like, oh my gosh, here we go with gaslighting again. And I'm like, that's because it's overused.
Yes.
Like, we shouldn't be that mad about the word gaslighting or the concept. It's
No,
annoying as heck.
we just need to apply it correctly.
Yes, and not just say, well, you're gaslighting me just because I'm mad at you.
Yeah, or because I disagree,
Exactly.
right? Or you
Yeah.
disagree with me, therefore you must be gaslighting me.
Yeah. I mean, I disagreed with you like the other week and you asked something and I said, no.
This happens consistently because as we have identified, both of us have a ridiculous level of confidence and a moderate level of knowledge about some things.
We just had this conversation.
And so, I don't even feel bad when you step to me. Oh, I know what we were fighting about. It was what room we stayed in at the retreat. You were right,
Oh my gosh.
but I stood my ground as I
And
always.
I was right.
And then when you were right, I can accept that because I love you and I think you're smart,
Yeah. You guys,
right?
I have to tell you the series of event of this. Janine, like, I stayed in this room and I was like, you 1000% did not stay in this room. She
I
was like,
had a very strong memory of this.
I absolutely stayed in this room. And I said, no, our friend Kara stayed in this room. And you're like, no. And I was like, you stayed in the room. Jason's in. Jason's like our boss.
Yes.
I'm gonna hate that I say that. I don't know if he listens.
Oh, he does. He listens. We made sure of that.
So you were in where Jason was this time.
Yep.
And so anyway, you guys, I couldn't go to bed without this being resolved. And so I texted Kara, asked her which room she was in. And I was right. But I
He
could
was
not,
right.
I couldn't. But
We
that's not gaslighting. I didn't gaslight you
no.
and make you feel crazy.
No, well, I gaslit you a little bit, but I didn't know I was doing that.
You're
It
not
was
wrong.
it was me just being confident about something I was wrong about, which is different
Yeah.
than gaslighting.
Yes.
Gaslighting would be if I just continue, even after it is clear that I am wrong, I am going to continue to do this until you agree with me
Mhm,
because you have been made to feel crazy. That is gaslighting,
mhm, mhm.
you know?
Well, didn't gaslighting come from an old movie? And I think you know this a little bit better, so please enlighten us here in a sec. But didn't it come from an old movie where the husband or guy in the relationship was like mechanically turning the lights down on his partner, on his wife? And then she was like, is it getting darker? And he was like, no, you're insane. It's not getting darker.
Absolutely. So it's from a play, a thriller play from 1938, British, which
Okay.
the Brits just make such good stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So, British thriller play called Gaslight by Patrick Hamilton. And that got turned into a movie in 1940 called Gaslight, which was also a British film. Then it
Okay.
got remade in 1944, also as Gaslight. And then the film has since been sort of taken over. That term has been taken over. But I don't remember hearing about this nearly as much until the last few years.
Yeah.
So you are correct. Basically, the movie, the play that's turned into a movie, takes place in kind of this elite society, kind of in the Victorian era.
Hmm.
And there's this husband that just seems like this really kind, genteel, very
Schmoozy.
schmoozy, whatever. And he uses these lies and manipulation to isolate his wife, who's an heiress, like a very wealthy heiress, and persuade her that she's mentally unwell so that he can steal from her. And you're right. What he would do is he would secretly dim and brighten the indoor gas powered lighting,
Okay.
but then insist that she was imagining it.
Wow.
So
What a
that's the basic origin.
yes. What a gem.
Right. And then the APA, the American Psychological Association, which is really where the brain trust for all of the diagnoses and everything else. In
Mhm.
2021, they actually defined it officially. Basically, it's manipulation so extreme as to induce mental illness or to justify commitment of the gaslighted person to a psychiatric institution.
You know what show that reminds me of?
Hmm.
Is it Dear John? Nope, it's not Dear John.
Dirty
It's
John.
Dirty John.
Dirty John. Absolutely.
The first episode, I think it's the first one or the
Yep.
first whatever series of
Yes.
it where he gaslights the heck out of her and makes everybody think she's the abusive, crazy one. And then she actually at the end loses it. Sorry if y'all haven't watched it and you wanted to. She loses it and kills him.
The daughter?
No, the wife.
Well, the wife doesn't kill him. The daughter kills him.
We're talking about two different ones, I think.
That would be on brand for us.
I know there's two of them.
Dirty John is the
And then
one.
one of them, the white, so there's two different series.
Oh, it's the second season of Dirty John, but it's not the one with John.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. The second season was something Broderick. No, hang on. Because actually, John in the original Dirty John also was a gaslighter.
I forget.
Betty Broderick.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. And
Yes,
she ended up
yep. She
killing
was
him
gaslit. Yep.
because she actually did end up he drove her so crazy.
Oh, 100%. And in the original season of Dirty John, John actually does these really like some subtle, some not so subtle things to her children.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
when they have these big reactions, he acts like, I don't understand, babe. Like, I
Oh,
don't know why they're so upset, and then isolates, which is what happens.
I know. I cannot with that.
That is 100% what happens. So
Yeah.
I'm realizing as I'm sitting here now, I've never actually thought of this before, but I did see someone for years and years and years, and she was gaslit to the point of allowing herself to be institutionalized.
Mhm.
And we had to work on that for a long time. And she actually helps women now. It's actually a really cool story. But yeah, I mean, this actually can happen to that degree where somebody
Yeah.
thinks they are not well.
Yeah. That they're so like, yeah, sick. I mean, Britney Spears,
Oh,
case in freaking point, you know?
100%. Tell me how gaslighting shows up with her.
So with Britney Spears, she started her career off, got super famous super quick at a young age.
So much money.
So much money and was like, you know, top. Like everyone knew who she was and like Christina
Oh, yeah.
Aguilera, boy bands, all the things.
Right.
So when she got married and then divorced and had her two boys, she had a moment. She
Mm-hmm.
was having a hard time.
Yeah.
Her husband, ex-husband,
Oh, yeah.
Kevin, who the frick his name is,
Kevin
he
Federline.
got her line. Oh my gosh.
Federline. Do you remember the first time you saw him? I'm like, one of these things is not like the other. You know what I'm talking about?
1000%. I like saw him and I'm like, what are you doing?
What are
Anyway,
you doing?
what
Yes.
are you doing? So then he started the whole thing. He
Yes.
started the series of events
Yes.
for her,
100%. I agree with that.
took her kids from her, made her seem to be the crazy one, and then she did eventually lose it. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
her dad swoops in, who has
Yes.
like I mean, I hope he's sorry. I hope he
He's
at some
worse than Kevin.
he's worse than Kevin.
Oh,
And he swoops in and takes over all of, I mean, what is that called? Conservatorship, puts her in a
mhm.
conservatorship and is like in charge of her. She was on crazy medications
Oh, I
to bring her
know.
down. Maybe we can circle back to her at some point.
I think we should because I think she's kind of incredible. And
Yes, and she would be a good case to talk about in terms of what happened to her. They had her on medications that were only supposed to be super short-lived for
yep.
psychotic episodes, and she was on it for years.
And I remember thinking it was everybody was laughing. I remember feeling sad when
Mhm.
everything went down because I was thinking, okay, number one, of course she shaved her head because she's tired of performing for all of you idiots, right? But then with
Well, she
the thing
doesn't
with the
even know she had a
paparazzi
million.
and the umbrella, I don't like if somebody comes and talks to me if I'm not in a mood necessarily, and I'm a people person. If I had
Yes,
people following me at all times, taking my picture, taking my kid's picture, doing all the things, I'm liable to run them all over.
yes. And she was going through a lot at that time.
Yes.
And here's the thing, you're in the limelight, like you're saying, people following you, you're bound to have a really bad moment. You're bound to have a bad moment. Here's the crappy thing. Hers was blown up.
Yes.
People like, and I loved JT.
Oh, I love him so much, but yeah, he was bad here. This was
I
bad.
love Justin Timberlake. He had many moments. They just weren't as loud.
They weren't as loud, and also I mean, not to get on the gender soapbox yet again, but we excuse those more
Hmm.
frequently than we
Hmm.
do a woman who's just become a mother who, her behavior did impact her children. I'm not arguing that. She may have been having postpartum. She had two kids really close together, and
Yes.
everyone treated her like she was completely insane. And if you treat somebody like that long enough, they're going to start to reflect that in their behavior. They just will. And then if you medicate them, I mean,
And tell them that you're medicating them because they're so crazy.
yes,
And they believe that they're crazy. And now she's like,
absolutely.
two middle fingers up to the world and no
100%.
more.
Yep,
Anyway,
absolutely.
neither one of us knew we would get on a Britney Spears train, but here we are.
That's not in our outline. This is an everyday occurrence for us. I feel like every single day. It starts with sometimes for us in our clinical work. It could be something as simple as I told you I was going to miss group last week. Okay, sometimes they did and I forget. That's true.
Sure.
But will they try that every time? Absolutely.
Or they'll say, I emailed. And I'm like, I don't have an email.
Oh, yeah. It must be lost in your email. You don't really know what you're doing with email. Like, I'm just very like, I think that one of the things that's worth talking about with gaslighting, I want to get your take on this.
Really quick, can I share my favorite time where I felt somewhat gaslit?
100%.
This was forever ago. Someone goes, are you even putting in attendance?
Oh, mm-hmm. You came and talked to me right after that. That was
I
not your
was,
favorite day.
I was like, excuse me?
What do you
Ex-
think I'm doing on my computer, sir? Or if I haven't opened it yet, that's my prerogative.
yeah. Like, are you even putting in attendance? I mean, I don't even know what you do over there. It's
Mm.
none of your business.
Okay, here's my example of gaslighting in my life because I am Teflon when it comes to gaslighting. That is
Mhm.
just the truth. But here's why. So I was gaslit probably from the time I was in fourth or fifth grade until the beginning of college.
Mhm.
I'm super blonde. I have my moments.
Yes.
And I was literally antagonized, not bullied because they were my friends. This was my friends doing this, but
Mhm.
they would have fun at my expense so much that I actually, and I would play along because I don't really care and I'm pretty confident as it is. So I was sort of like, oh, it's so funny. But then it really started to take a toll on me actually when I got to college because I was struggling in a couple of classes.
Yeah.
And I just felt bad. And I remember there was one night we were walking over by Kit West in Boulder, and I'm walking with a couple of my best friends, and they were poking fun at me. And
Mhm.
I'm just doing my thing and I'm laughing. And it just hit me like Nat, it went all through me because the day before I had seen the kid from fourth grade, Zach, hi. Um, I had seen him and he was so nice to me. Actually, I ran into him on campus and he was like, "Hey, how you doing?" Blah blah blah. But it hit me like he was the origin. He's my origin. Like
Oh
Mark
my
Devin's
gosh.
backstory would be that. Like he was
Yes.
the one who would tease me mercilessly. He's a very kind human now, has a family. He's great.
Yes.
He's all good. Very redemptive. It's all fine.
Like when we were children, we didn't know what we were
We
doing.
didn't know what we were doing. And he was genuinely funny. Like the thing caught on because it was funny and because I do sometimes do really stupid things, but I'm also smart.
Sure.
So it went all
Same.
through me. And I look at my friends and I'm like, I'm literally smarter than all of you put together, which was not kind. And I don't think
That's
it's true.
so funny.
I had smart friends, very smart friends. But I think that was the beginning of my spicy era. I just kind of, and I have not let up since. But I realized like
Good.
I've been a little gaslit. Like I started believing what people were saying about me
It's
because it
true.
was funny and fun until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Now, the difference is nobody did that to control me, I don't think. But
No.
it gets on you. Like if you hear enough messages about you, about what you think, that your perspective's wrong, eventually you start to take it on.
Oh, for sure. For
And
sure.
and I think that in relationships, this can be slow
Hmm.
over time, or it can happen real fast.
Hmm.
I don't know that there's like a single way it goes down. What do you think?
I agree with that. Really quickly, I just told Preston that he's going to jump in on one of these minis with us.
Yeah.
And he goes, on what? I don't know anything about Britney Spears. Anyway,
Preston,
that's so
first of
funny.
all, that's a lie. Second of all, fair. You
Yes.
don't have to jump in on Britney Spears.
Right. To your question, that's not the only way that that looks. Was that basically what you were saying?
Well, my thing was, so I think it can be kind of slow. or
Mhm.
it can be super fast. I think in some of our scarier cases, it's actually pretty fast. It can happen pretty quickly.
I
But how do you see it unfold? And what do you think causes one person to try to gaslight the other person in a relationship? Like, why does it even happen in the first place?
I think, man, I think the motive just depends, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think when I think of the times in my personal life where someone has tried to intentionally or unintentionally gaslight me,
Hmm.
the times that I can think of, it's been out of defenses. Like they just feel really defensive.
Yeah.
It hasn't felt much like a control thing, but more of like, I'm not crazy, you're crazy type of message.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. And so it that doesn't feel as controlly, but it feels more of like a defense. Like
Mm.
I can't be the one that looks like I'm the insane one right now, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
make you feel that way. So that goes to the like what we said earlier, when you say something and then they say something passive aggressive back, which we'll get into communication styles later on.
Yeah.
They say something passive aggressive back and you're like, "Oh my gosh," right? Like you have like a mini blow up or like a
Yeah.
mini like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what is happening or what's going on." And then they're like, "Whoa, why are you so upset?" And you're like,
Oh,
"What?"
that's the most classic example is one
Oh,
person says something insane,
yes.
but they say it calmly or they say it
Yes.
with a smile on their face, and the other person goes 0 to 60. And then it's like, I'm worried about you. Are you okay?
Yes,
Why
like
are you
I'm
so upset? And it's like, I'm upset because you just said something nuts to me. Like, did you hear yourself? But in the moment we look so overblown.
yes, because it's came out of left field and it was awful.
Well, and I'm sitting here actually kind of thinking maybe for the first time that some of the folks who we see who pretty intentionally gaslight their partners, whether it's out of defensiveness,
Right.
insecurity, whatever, both, all of the
Mhm.
above.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of this too can be learned in childhood because if you
Mhm.
have a parent that can never be wrong, right? Like my parents could be wrong. They didn't love it. They still don't love it, but they could be wrong. They would be able to
Mhm.
look at me and say, I'm wrong about this. Or
Mhm.
like when you called me out on being wrong about where I stayed at 11:30 after we'd gone to
I
bed a
don't
month
know why
later.
that was so important.
I know. Did you feel so validated?
I did.
I think that had our model been to just double down,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
What that would look like is, well, the other person doesn't know. Like they don't pay attention,
Right.
right? Or I'm not sure they were even there. Are you sure they were there? Like
Mhm.
just doubling down and taking it that next step, next step, next step.
Yeah.
I think we learn that sometimes as children from our parents. We learn that that's how you win arguments, is you just
Sure.
push until they give in and they change their mind.
Yeah. Well, I do think some of the control piece of it lines up with like I just can't be wrong or I don't want to be wrong.
Hmm.
Like as I'm thinking about what you just said about parents and family of origin,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if you grow up in a family where one or both parents are like, I'm not giving up on this,
Yeah.
even if you know I'm wrong, right?
Yes.
Um, then yeah, it sucks to be on the receiving end of that. But I
Oh,
think
for sure.
the biggest thing is, the reason why people get so frustrated, like we said earlier with this term, is because it's so overused and it's not used correctly. And I think that was the point of us even talking about it today is like, let's make sure we have the definition down and actual like examples of what this looks like.
Yes. And even we're being looser with it than we could be. Like we're talking about intentional and unintentional gaslighting.
Yes.
The true, clearest, most pure definition of gaslighting is intentional manipulation to make the other person feel crazy.
Yes. Yes.
So we should probably not throw it around all the time.
No. Here's the thing, guys. If your partner's like, I don't want to do that, that sounds dumb. Maybe not the best way to communicate, but that's not gaslighting.
If they say, I don't appreciate that you washed your stuff with me when I came home and asked you to help with the dishwasher,
That's not gaslighting.
Not gaslighting. It's just not. It's not gaslighting.
No.
If you do think you are legitimately being gaslit by your partner, one of the best things you can do is get a therapist.
Mhm.
Or if you have a friend or family member who's being gaslit in a relationship, particularly if it doesn't seem to be a very safe relationship, an outside perspective that doesn't have a vested interest in what they do. So that's where a therapist is really helpful because if they come to you and they ask for help and you give them great input, number one, they're going to take it back to their partner, which could be unsafe potentially,
Right.
or further isolate you from them. And guess what? The person doing the gaslighting is going to just turn that around and use it on you. They're going to
Mhm.
turn it around and they're going to say, well, your mom never even tried to understand me. Like they're judgmental, or it's just going to escalate and
Yeah.
expand on the gaslighting. But a really good therapist is going to
Mhm.
pick up on some of these dynamics and hopefully figure out that there's a pattern of the other person not taking any accountability.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like you said with the definition or the motive of the original where this originated from of that isolation piece, right? And we're going to, y'all, we have some good episodes coming for you guys, but that relates so
Mhm.
much to the mega church stuff and
Oh, the
the
dance cult, 7M dance cult.
dance cult, right? Like just slow manipulation, slow gaslighting to make
Yep,
you believe a narrative that isn't true.
absolutely.
So stay tuned, my friends.
Hope you learned a little something today. And, write in, let us know if you have questions. And also, if you want more gaslighting material, we could do a longer episode, but we just wanted to get some basics out there.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, forensic friends. Bye.
I'm Janine.
And I'm Nat.
And as always, thanks for listening and join us next week for more crime, psychology, and heart.